So I hear Hamilton announced a new watch this week. Hey guys, welcome to this week's episode of the Budding Watch Enthusiast. So this week we have a mailbag to answer a couple questions that you guys sent in. Also, we're going to be talking about the big watch news of the past week, and that, of course, is the announcement of the Hamilton Murph, which is a long-anticipated watch from Hamilton, which has met some controversy. So we'll talk about that in a second. Before we get to that, a quick wristwatch check. I, of course, am wearing the Manta Sky Quest that I just got in. In case you guys missed it, I did unbox this watch in the last video that I uploaded, so I will link that up here for you as well. So let's talk about the Murph. A brief history for those of you that are not aware. There was a 2014 movie that came out called Interstellar, directed by Christopher Nolan, where Hamilton watches featured prominently in the plot of the film. One of the watches worn by Matthew McConaughey's character was a Hamilton khaki aviation, which is readily available. I actually featured that watch in another video that I've done on the channel almost a year ago at this point. But the other watch featured in the film was actually a watch that was never released by Hamilton. It was a watch designed and made specifically for the movie because it featured prominently in the plot, which I won't spoil in case you haven't seen Interstellar. But this watch was nicknamed the Murph after the character in the movie who used it. And fans of the watch and fans of the movie clamored for years for Hamilton to make the Murph. There were a couple social media grassroots campaigns that were people imploring Hamilton to make this watch because they really liked it. Hamilton has finally acquiesced. They are coming out with the Murph, and it has been met with a lot of controversy. And the controversy really boils down to two factors with the watch: the size and the price. So the size of the watch is 42 millimeters, which for a lot of folks is too large. And while I understand that, this is also coming from someone with an 8-inch wrist, so 42 millimeters is actually like an optimal size for me. But the reason that I'm not kind of bent out of shape about this is because in the film, you can see there's a scene where you see the khaki aviation watch and the Murph held side by side with one another. And the khaki aviation watch, being a pilot's watch, is 42 millimeters as well. And the Murph is actually the same size. Technically, Hamilton's making it accurate to the size that the watch was in the film. Now, I understand a lot of folks were disappointed. I think a lot of people were anticipating a 38 millimeter version of the watch to come out. Look, my advice to you is to keep telling Hamilton you want a 38 millimeter version, and to also hope that this current version of the Murph sells really well, because if it sells well and they think they can sell a lot more at 38 millimeters, they're gonna make a 38 millimeter. That's generally how these things go. Now, the part of it that I do understand people getting upset about is the price. So the price of this watch is going to be $995. Now, I have Hamilton shop on my iPad here in front of me. For comparison's sake, a khaki field, which is probably this watch's closest comparable just in terms of the style, with a day and date window, without a bracelet, is $895, so $100 cheaper. If you go down to a khaki field auto on a bracelet, you're looking now at $625. So obviously Hamilton is charging a little bit of a premium for the Murph watch as well, and even more so when you consider that this is just a three-hander. There is no date window on here as well. Now, it does come with the Hamilton H10 movement, which is upgraded from a base ETA movement to have a larger mainspring, which means you get an 80-hour power reserve. It's similar to the movement. I think I have the H40 or 30 in my Hamilton khaki field that I have that has the longer power reserve. So you're getting a little bit of upgrade there. I do understand that aspect of it, though. I certainly understand people being a little salty about the price, the fact that it's basically a $1,000 watch. Now, obviously, if you buy it on the gray market, you can probably get it for a lot cheaper. How much cheaper, I'm not sure, but then of course you're kind of taking things in your own hands as far as the warranty goes and things of that nature. So you're losing that protection as well. I'm much more sympathetic to the price argument, is what I'm saying. The size one, I don't really understand why people are upset about that. I certainly can understand why folks are put off by the price of the Murph. But at the same time, I do think that it's a really great thing that Hamilton did listen to their consumers, did listen to folks that said, hey, we want this watch. You know, the fact that they even are making it is kind of cool. Again, the price is a little out there, but what are you going to do? I mean, they're probably charging a bit of an interstellar premium, I guess you could say, on the watch for sure. So yeah, if you guys have any thoughts about the Murph, I would love to hear them in the comments down below. But let's get to the mailbag, and if you guys didn't see me solicit questions for this mailbag, there's a couple places that I posted it. The first one is in the new community tab for the channel on YouTube. Since you guys got the channel to 1,000 subscribers, and thank you, by the way, for that, I now have a new way to communicate with you guys, and that is through the community tab on YouTube. Now, currently the community tab can only be seen on the desktop version of YouTube and also on the phone version of YouTube, not on the tablet version for some reason. And if you use the phone version, it actually, any post that I make through there will show up in your subscriber feed. So if you scroll through there, you'll see that. Pretty soon here, I'm going to be reviewing the Ocean Crawler Core Diver, and I know I wanted to use that feature to kind of ask you guys if there were any questions that you had about the watch that you wanted to make sure I touched on in the review that I don't normally cover. So that's going to be through the community tab. Again, it's a new thing for the channel, and I would certainly appreciate if you guys could find your way to that. I also did post the question on Instagram and on Facebook. So if you don't want to use the YouTube community tab, that's another way that you can find out when I do post questions for mailbags like this, is to follow me on Instagram at Budding Watch Enthusiast, or follow the Facebook page, which if you just search for the Budding Watch Enthusiast, you can find that. And that's usually just reposts from Instagram that I post on there. I'm not on Facebook too terribly often. But without further ado, let's get to the questions. So we'll start with Instagram. Njama says, what helps to keep you excited about watches? Well, for me, it's really easy right now because, like I've talked about in a couple of the previous videos, this is year 2 of watch collecting for me. There's still so many watches that I haven't gotten to experience. There's still so many brands that I'm learning about. Still so many people to meet. So for me, it's really easy to kind of keep the excitement level up. I mean, one of the other things I love too is when I do get to go like to watch fairs or meetups and stuff like that, getting to experience not only watches that I've never heard of, but like famous watches that I'm very well aware of that I just haven't been able to, see in person yet that someone happens to have. I mean, that's a really cool aspect as well. And of course, you try to space these out as much as possible, but getting new watches, always exciting, going through that honeymoon phase. But yeah, like for me, it's just continuing to educate myself, continuing to learn, continuing to discover new things. And again, that's something for me that's easy to do because I'm still, fresh into it as well. And I don't know how that wanes or changes the longer that you stay collecting watches. So, but yeah, for me, that's how I'm able to stay excited about watches. RLF25RS78, I have no idea what that username stands for, but he asks, you mentioned in a previous video that you never owned a mechanical chronograph. Are there any mechanical chronos that you are interested in? Yes, there are a handful that I am very interested in, ranging from incredibly attainable to maybe if I win the lottery one day, I can buy one of these watches. There's 4 that come to mind for me right off the top of my head. The first, and I'll go in order from least expensive to most expensive. So I would love to get my hands on a Seiko like 6138 or 6139 vintage chronograph from the 60s or 70s. For chronographs, that 60s, 70s era is one that I actually really enjoy a lot. It's one of the things that drew me to the Stratton Synchro when I bought that kind of has similar design aesthetics to it. Like I said, something about those period-specific pieces that just kind of scream the era that they're from is really cool. I'm not too picky about the style yet. I haven't found one that has grabbed me. The UFO ones are pretty cool, the 6138s. Definitely not interested in a Pogue. Sorry to rhyme. I know Pogues are very in vogue right now. with collectors, but I'm not, like, that gold dial is too garish to me. Like, it screams at me too much, and it's not, I'm not a big fan of it. But like I said, the 6138s and 6139s are very cool, and I'm kind of passively looking for one right now on eBay mostly. The next one is a Zin 103. I love the vertical register layout on it. I also like the fact that there's also a timing bezel on the outside to give the watch some dual use purpose as well. The only thing I don't like about the Zin 103 is it doesn't have a tachymeter display on the outside, and for some reason, like, that just kind of bugs me a little bit. But I do like the layout of the 103, and it's a very cool, like, mid-range price chronograph for sure. Next is a very boring pick. It's an Omega Speedmaster, but it's specifically the Ultraman version that came out last year. I am not an Ultraman fan, but I do love the layout of this watch. And I've actually gotten to see this watch and use it in person before. It doesn't change the Speedmaster design by very much, but the changes it does make, I think, are very attractive. Just like I said, the red accents, the first 8 minutes, or is it 8 or 6 minutes? I can't remember which. On the minute reader that are red, which has to do with Ultraman. It has the little Ultraman icon on it as well, which again, I don't care. I couldn't care less about. It just looks cool. And the last one, and this is the one that I can't envision me ever owning because I'm not this wealthy of a person to be able to own one, and that is a Lange Datograph. We haven't talked much about haute horology on this channel because it's not an area of the industry that I really have a lot of experience in, obviously. But I have a huge affinity for Lange watches. I just really think that they have really smart design. They look fantastic. The movements look incredible when you flip the case over. And I just love the look and the layout of the Lange Datograph. If you really want to go bold, you can also get the perpetual calendar version, which is, like I said, going above and beyond. I'd be happy with just the regular Datograph. Like I said, I think it's fantastically laid out, looks very refined, works in any situation, and yeah, just a really handsome, fantastic looking watch. So the last question comes from YouTube. It's from Nick. It's a two-parter that kind of have relation to one another. Do you see any connection behind the success of fashion watch companies over the last 5 years or so with the growth and success of the micro brands that make mechanical watches and the growth of the watch community here on YouTube? Is it possible that fashion watches lead people en masse to the good stuff? He also asks, what are your thoughts on the apparent recent explosion in micro brands? I personally really like it, and I think it's a good thing for people who like watches moving into the future. So I'll discuss the first part first. I made a video a little while back talking about fashion watches kind of getting a bum rap. One of the things that I talked about is they do help shepherd folks from like the fashion watch side of the industry to the mechanical side of the industry. I'm one of those people. Like I said, I had Fossil watches for 15 years before I even really discovered what a mechanical watch was, and if it wasn't for that, I never would have discovered it, for sure. I do think fashion watches do get some credit for getting folks into this, but I don't think they deserve as much credit as you think. Well, actually, I take that back. It's one of those things where I would imagine that most people who own a mechanical watch at some point owned a fashion watch before that. But that being said, I think a very, very small percentage of people who own fashion watches find their way into the mechanical realm. Now, as far as micro brands, I really don't think that it has too much to do with it at all, honestly, because micro brands, by and large, kind of market to the watch enthusiast community. So it's kind of like one of those things where you're already here and you're finding out about this stuff. I think discoverability is one of the biggest challenges that micro brands have. But at the same time, because they have smaller production runs, they don't have to worry about reaching a mass audience. They're okay targeting, you know, this cottage industry that we have here of watch enthusiasts and people that are passionate about mechanical wristwatches. So I don't think there's a direct migration between fashion watch folks and micro brands. I think the transition from fashion watches is going to be more towards your Citizens and your Seikos and your Orients, like your entry level, you know, big brands, and then eventually from there, maybe you learn about the micro brand stuff from there. As far as what I think about like the Microbrand boom, I think it's nothing but a good thing for watch enthusiasts and for the industry in general. I often compare this because I'm also a huge video gamer. We've seen it in the video game space as well, where you've seen a lot of independent developers coming up over the last, 10 years especially, making smaller games, but being able to do stuff that large AAA game makers can't do. In terms of like mechanics and theme and stuff like that. And the gaming industry is a better for that as well. And you also see a lot of the design stuff implemented with the AAA developers too. All you have to do is look at the Battle Royale genre for that. The whole Battle Royale genre came from small independent developers, and now, Fortnite's making, millions of dollars a day, and, Call of Duty has a Battle Royale mode as well. To bring it back to wristwatches, microbrands are great for the industry because they make watches and they make products that the big watch brands can't do. They can take more chances with design. They can take more chances with kind of doing some crazy stuff that you can't see from the big brands, because microbrands don't have to find that mass audience. Whereas with a lot of larger brands, unless it's like a special edition, they have to worry about appealing to everybody and not appealing to a small subset, because they're trying to sell as many watches as they can. Whereas a microbrand company, might come out with a cool design, might only make 100, and as long as they sell those 100, they're good to go. Now, that being said, plenty of microbrands focus in on very unoriginal watches, like with homage designs and stuff like that. So I guess I'm casting a wide net when I shouldn't be. But to answer your question, I do think the microbrand explosion has been a fantastic thing for the watch community in general. And for me, it's been really great as well. I feel like I came into watch collecting at just the perfect time that I could have, because there are things happening in the industry now that you weren't seeing, 5 or 10 years ago, but that we're in the middle of right now, which is, like I said, it's been very cool for me as well as someone who's a newer collector. So that is it. Thank you guys very much for those of you that submitted questions. Again, this is something that I'm gonna go back to every now and then, so look out on the community tab or on Instagram and Facebook if you'd like to submit questions. Again, something I talked about last year as well, I wanna start doing live streams as regularly as I can. So again, look forward to those. I'd like to get one together here in the next couple weeks and chat with you guys. That would be very cool if we could pull that off. So that's it for me this week. Thank you guys very much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, do me a favor, hit the like button down there below. If you are new to the channel, thank you guys for checking it out. Hit the red subscribe button if you enjoyed this video, and ring the bell icon so you never miss a new video with the Budding Watch Enthusiast. And as I mentioned earlier, I am on Instagram as well, at Budding Watch Enthusiast is where you can go to find me there. Again, thank you very much for watching. I will see you the next time.